Shalom and welcome. Today will be Joshua 11 through 15. And it came to be, when Yabin, sovereign of Hatzor, heard that he sent to Yobab, sovereign of Madon, and to the sovereign of Shimron, and to the sovereign of Akshaph, and to the sovereigns who were from the north, in the mountains, and in the desert plain, to Kinneroth, and in the low country, and in the heights of Dor on the west, the Canaanites in the east, and in the west, and the Amorite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Jebusite in the mountains, and the Hivite below Hemron, and in the land of Mitzpah. And they went out, they and all their armies with them, and they went out, they and all their armies with them, as many people as numerous as the sand on the seashore, with many horses and chariots. And all these sovereigns met together, and they came and camped together at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. And Yahweh said to Yehoshua, Do not be afraid of their presence, for tomorrow, about this time, I am giving all of them over to Israel, slain. Hamstring their horses, and burn their chariots with fire. And Yehoshua and their soldiers with him came against them suddenly by the waters of Merom, and they fell on them. And Yahweh gave them into the hand of Israel, and they struck them and pursued them to Great Sidon, and to Mitzraphoth Maim, into the valley of Mitzpah eastward, and they struck them until no survivor was left to them. And Yehoshua did to them as Yahweh said to him. He hamstrung their horses and burned their chariots with fire. And Yehoshua turned back at the time and captured Hatzor, and struck its sovereign with the sword, for Hatzor was formerly the head of all those reigns. And they struck all the beings who were in it with the edge of the sword, putting them under the ban. He did not leave anyone breathing. Then he burned Hatzor with fire. And Yehoshua captured all the cities of those sovereigns and all their sovereigns, and he struck them with the edge of the sword. He put them under the ban, as Moshe the servant of Yahweh commanded. However, Israel did not burn any cities that stood on their mounds, but Yehoshua burned only Hatzor. And all the spoil of these cities and the livestock the children of Israel took as booty for themselves, but they struck every man with the edge of the sword until they had destroyed them, and they did not leave anyone breathing. As Yahweh had commanded Moshe his servant, so Moshe commanded Yehoshua, and so Yehoshua did. He did not turn aside a word of all that Yahweh had commanded Moshe. Thus Yehoshua took all this land, the mountain country, and all the south, and all the land of Goshen, and the low country, and the desert plain, and the mountains of Israel, and its low lands. From Mount Halak, that goes up to Seir, as far as Baal Gad, and the valley of Lebanon, below Mount Hermon, and he captured all the sovereigns, and struck them, and killed them. Yehoshua fought with all those sovereigns for a long time. There was not a city that made peace with the children of Israel, except the Hivites, the inhabitants of Gabon. All the others they took in battle. For it was of Yahuwah to strengthen their hearts, that they should come against Israel in battle, in order to put them under the ban, so that they might have no favor, but that he might annihilate them, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. And at the time Yehoshua came and cut off the Anakim from the mountains, from Hebron, from Debir, from Anab, and from all the mountains of Yehudah, and from all the mountains of Israel. Yehoshua put them with their cities under the ban. There were none of the Anakim left in the land of the children of Israel, only in Azah, in Gath, and in Ashdod some remained. Thus Yehoshua took the entire land, according to all that Yahweh had said to Moshe, and Yehoshua gave it as an inheritance to Israel according to their divisions by their tribes, and the land rested from fighting. And these are the sovereigns of the land whom the children of Israel struck, and those and whose land they possessed beyond the Jordan towards the sun rising, from the Wadi Arnon to Mount Hermon, and all the desert plain eastward. Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who dwelt in Heshbon, ruling from Aurora, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, from the middle of the Wadi, in half Gilead, even as far as the Wadi Yabok, the border of the children of Ammon, and the desert plain, from the sea of Kinneroth eastward as far as the sea of Arabah, the salt sea, the way to Baith, Yehismoth, and southward below the slopes of Pisgah, and the border of Og, sovereign of Bashan, who was of the remnant of the Rephaites, who dwell at Ashtaroth and at Edrei, and ruled at Mount Hermon, and in Salca, and in Basham, as far as the border of Gershurites and the Macharites, and half of Galaad, as far as the border of Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon. Moshe, the servant of Yahweh, and the children of Israel had stricken them, and Moshe, the servant of Yahweh, had given it as possession to the Reubenites and to the Gadites, and to half the tribe of Manasseh. And these are the sovereigns of the land which Yehoshua and the children of Israel struck beyond Jordan on the west, from Baal Gad to the valley of Lebanon, as far as Mount Halak that goes up to Seir, which Yehoshua gave to the tribes of Israel as possession according to their divisions. In the mountain country, and in the low country, and in the desert plain, and in the slopes, and in the wilderness, and in the south, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites, the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The sovereign of Jericho, 1. The sovereign of Ai, which is beside Bethel, 1. The sovereign of Jerusalem, 1. The sovereign of Hebron, 1. The sovereign of Yarmouth, 1. The sovereign of Lachish, 1. The sovereign of Eglon, 1. The sovereign of Gezer, 1. The sovereign of Debir, 1. The sovereign of Geder, 1. The sovereign of Hormah, 1. The sovereign of Ardad, 1. The sovereign of Libnah, 1. The sovereign of Adullam, 1. The sovereign of Makeda, 1. The sovereign of Bethel, 1. The sovereign of Tapua, 1. The sovereign of Hefer, 1. The sovereign of Aphek, 1. The sovereign of Sharon, 1. The sovereign of Madon, 1. The sovereign of Hatzor, 1. The sovereign of Shimron Meron, 1. The sovereign of Ashphath, 1. The sovereign of Ta'anak, 1. The sovereign of Megiddo, 1. The sovereign of Kadesh, 1. The sovereign of Yokneam and Carmel, 1. The sovereign of Dor and the heights of Dor, 1. The sovereign of the nations of Gilgal, the sovereign of the nations of Gilgal, 1. The sovereign of Tirsah, 1. 31 sovereigns in all. Let me have a sip just real quick. Chapter 13. And Yehoshua was old, advanced in years. And Yahweh said to him, You are old, advanced in years, and still much of the land remains to be possessed. This is the land that remains, all the districts of the Philistines and all the Gershurites. For Shahor, which is in front of Mitzrayim and up to the border of Ekron northward, are considered as Canaanite. The 5 princes of the Philistines and the Azathites and the Ashdodites, the Eshcolites, the Gittites, and the Ekronites, also the Awites. On the south, all the land of the Canaanites and Merah that belongs to the Sidonians, as far as Aphek, to the border of the Amorites, and the land of the Gibeonites, and all Lebanon toward the sunrise from Baal Gad below Mount Hermon as far as the entrance to Hamath. All the inhabitants of the mountains from Lebanon as far as Misroph, Maim, and all the Sidonians, I myself drive them out from before the children of Israel, only divided by lot to Israel as an inheritance, as I have commanded you. And now divide this land as an inheritance to the 9 tribes and half the tribe of Manasseh. When with them the other half tribe, the Reubenites and the Gadites, received their inheritance, which Moshe had given them beyond the Jordan eastward, as Moshe the servant of Yahweh had given them. From Aurora, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, and the city that is in the middle of the Wadi, and all the plain of the Medevav, as far as Davon, and all the cities of Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who reign in Heshbon, as far as the border of the children of Ammon, and Gilad, and the border of the Geshurites, and of the Maachalites, and all Mount Hermon, and all Bashan, as far as Salca. All the reign of Og and Bashan, who reign in Asheroth and Edrei, who remained of the remnant of the Rephites, for Moshe had stricken and dispossessed them. However, the children of Israel did not drive out the Gershurites, nor the Amalekites, so the Gershurites and the Amalekites dwell in the midst of Israel to this day. Only to the tribe of Levi he had given no inheritance. The offerings made by fire to Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, were their inheritance, as he had said to them. And Moshe gave to the tribe of the children of Reuben for their clans, and their border was from Aror, which is on the bank of the Wadi Arnon, and the city that is in the middle of the Wadi, and all the plain of Medebab, Heshbon, and all the cities that are in the plain, Dibon, and Bamoth Baal, Beth Baal, Maon, and Yatzah, and Kedemoth, and Mephaf, and Kiriaphim, and Shibma, and Sarah Shahar on the mountain of the valley, and Baeth Peor, and the slopes of Pisgah, and Baeth Yeshamoth, and all the cities of the plain, and all the reign of Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, whom Moshe had stricken with the princes of Midian, Eu, and Rechem, and Shur, and Hur, and Reba, princes of Sihon, dwelling in the land. And the sons of Israel killed them with the sword. Balaam, son of Beor, the diviner, among those who were killed with them. And the border of the children of Reuben was the bank of the Jordan. This was the inheritance of the children of Reuben for their clans, the cities and their villages. And Moshe gave to the tribe of Gad, to the children of Gad, for their clans. And their border was Uzur, and all the cities of Gilead, and half of the children of Ammon, and half of the land of the children of Ammon as far as Aurora, which is beyond Rabbah. And from Heshbon to Ramoth, Mizpah, and Betamin, and from Mahanaim to the border of Devir, and the valley Baeth Haram, and Baeth Nimrah, and Sukkot, and Shephon, the rest of the reign of Sihon, sovereign of Heshbon, the Jordan being its border, and for as far as the edge of the sea of Kinnereth, beyond the Jordan eastward. This is the inheritance of the children of Gad for their clans, the cities of their villages. And Moshe gave to half the tribe of Manasseh, and it was for half the tribe of for half of the children of Manasseh for their clans. And their border was from Mahanaim to all Bashan, all the reign of Og, sovereign of Bashan, and all the small towns of Yair, which are in Bashan, 60 cities. And half of Gilad, and Asheroth, and Edrei, cities of the reign of Og and Bashan, were for the children of Machir, son of Manasseh, to half of the children of Machir for their for their clans. These Moshe gave as inheritance in the desert plains of Moab, beyond the Jordan, by Jericho eastward. But to the tribe of Levi, Moshe gave no inheritance. Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, he was their inheritance, and he had said to them. Now these children of Israel inherited the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest, and Yehoshua son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers of the tribes of Israel caused them to inherit. Their inheritance was by lot, and Yahweh had commanded by the land, as Yahweh had commanded by the hand of Moshe, for the 9 tribes and the half-tribe. For Moshe had given the inheritance of the 2 tribes and the half-tribe beyond the Jordan, but the Levites he gave no inheritance in their midst. For the children of Joseph had become 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, and they gave no part to the Levites in the land, except cities to dwell in, with their open land for their livestock and their possessions. As Yahweh had commanded Moshe, so the children of Israel did, and they divided the land. And the children of Yehudah came to Yehoshua in Gilgal, and Kaleb, son of Yephahim the Kenizzite, said to him, You know the word which Yahuwah said to Moshe, the man of Elohim, concerning you and me in Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moshe the servant of Yahweh sent me to Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought back word to him as it was in my heart. But my brothers who went up with me made the heart of the people melt. But I followed Yahweh my Elohim completely. So Moshe swore on the day, saying, The land on which your foot has trodden is your inheritance, as your children's forever. because you have followed Yahweh, my Elohim, completely. And now see, Yahuwah has kept me alive, and he said, these 45 years since as he said, these 45 years since Yahweh spoke this word to Moshe while Israel walked in the wilderness, and now see, I am 85 years old today. Yet I am still as strong as I was on the day that Moshe sent me. As my strength was then, so my strength is now, for battle, and for going out, and for coming in. And now, give me this mountain, of which Yahuwah spoke in that day, for you heard in that day how the Anakim were there, and that the cities were great and walled. If Yahweh is with me, then I shall dispossess them, as Yahweh said. Yehoshua then blessed him, and gave Hebron to Kaleb, son of Jephuneh, as an inheritance. So Hebron became the inheritance of Kaleb, son of Jephuneh, the Kenizzite, to this day, because he followed Yahuwah Elohim of Israel completely. Now the name of Hebron was formerly Kiriath Arba. Arba was the great man among the Anakim, and the land had rest from fighting. And the lot of the tribe of the children of Yehudah for their clans was to the border of Edom, the wilderness of Sin, southward in the extreme border, and their southern border began at the edge of the Salt Sea, from the bay that faces outward, and it went out to the southern side of the ascent of Akrabim, passed over to Sin, and went on to the south side of Kadesh Barnea, and passed over to Hetzron, went up to Adar, and went around to Karka, and passed over to Atman, and went out to the Wadi of Mitzrayim, and all the border ended at the sea. This is your southern border. And the east border was the Salt Sea, as far as the end of the Jordan, and the border on the northern quarter began at the bay of the sea, at the end of the Jordan. And the border went up to Beth Hogla, and passed over north to Beth Arba, and the border went up to the stone of Bohan, son of Reuben, and the border went up toward Debir from the valley of Achor, and it turned northward toward Gilgal, which is before the ascent of Adumim, which is south of the Wadi, and the border passed over to the waters of En Shemeh, and ended at En Rogel. And the border went up by the valley of the son of Hinnom, and the southern slope of the Jebusite city, that is Jerusalem. And the border went up to the top of the mountain that lies before the valley of Hinnom westward, which is the end of the valley of Rephaim northward. And the valley went on around from the top of the hill to the fountain of the water of Nephtoah, and went up to the cities of Mount Ephron. And the border went around Ba'alah, that is Kiriath Yearim, and the border turned around from Baal westward to Mount Seir, and passed over the side of Mount Yearim on the north, that is Kesalon, and went down to Beth Shemesh, and passed over to Timnah. And the border went out to the side of Ekron northward, and the border went around to Shikaron, passed over to Mount Baal, and went out to Yabneel, and the border ended at the sea. And the west border was the coastline of the great sea, that is the boundary of the children of Yehudah all around their clans. And to Kaleb, son of Jephuneh, he gave a portion in the midst of the children of Yehudah, according to the mouth of Yahweh, to Yehoshua, Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the father of Anak. And Kaleb drove out the three sons of Anak from there, Shishai, and Ahiman, and Talmi, and Talmai, the children of Anak. Excuse me. And he went up from there to the inhabitants of Debir, and the name of Debir formerly was Kiriath Sefer. And Kaleb said, he who strikes Kiriath Sefer and shall capture it, to him I shall give Achsah, my daughter, as wife. And Othniel, son of Kenaz, the brother of Kaleb, did capture it. So he gave him Achsah, his daughter, as wife. And it came to be, when she came to him, that she persuaded him to ask her father for a field. And when she got off from the donkey, Kaleb said to her, what is the matter? And she said, "Give me a blessing, since you have given me land in the south. Give me also fountains of water." And he gave her upper fountains and the lower fountains. This was the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Yehuda for their clans. And the cities at the furthest border of the tribe of the children of Yehuda toward the border of Edom in the south were Kebetzael and Eder and Yagur, and Kenah and Demoth and Adava and Kadesh and Hatzor and Yimna and Sipha and Telem and Be Aloth and Hatzor, Hadattah and Kirioth Hetzron, that is Hatzor, Amam and Shema and Moladah and Hatzar Gada and Heshmon and Beth Pelet and Hatzar Shual and Beersheba and Bizyothia, Baala and Eam and Etzim and El Todol, El Tolad and Kasil and Horma and Silag, Siklag, that's probably more accurate, Siklag and Madmana, Siklag and Madmana and Sans Madmana and Sansana. That sounds like a band. And Baoth and Silhim and Ayam and Ramon. All the cities were 29 with their villages. And the low country, Eshtael and Teshora and Akha and Zanoah and El Ganim and Tapua and Anam, Yurmuth and Adullam, Succoth and Azekah and Sha'arim and Aditaim and Gedera and Gederothaim, 14 cities with their villages. Goodness gracious, it's a lot of words here. Sian and Hadashah and Migdalgad and Dilan and Metzvah and Yoktala, Lachish and Botzkath and Eglon and Kaban and Lamam and Kithlish and Gederoth, Beth Dagon and Naama and Makkedah, 16 cities with their villages, Libnah and Ether and Ashan and Yiftaph and Ashna and Netzib and Keileth and Akzib and Marashah, 9 cities with their villages, Ekron with its towns and its villages, from Ekron to the sea, all that were by the side of Ashdod with their villages, Ashdod, its towns and its villages, Azah, its towns and its villages, as far as the Wadi of Mitzrayim, and the great sea with its coastline. And in the mountain country, Shamir and Yatir and Sukkoth and Danah and Kiriath Sanah, that is Debir and Anab and Eshmoth and Anim and Goshen and Halan and Gilo, 11 cities with their villages, Arab and Dumah and Ashan and Yanim and Beth Tapua and Afekah and Humta and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron and Sisor, 9 cities with their villages, Maon, Carmel, Sif and Utah and Yisrael and Yokdeam and Zanoah, Cain, Geba and Timnah, 10 cities with their villages, Halhu, Beth Sur and Gedor and Marath and Beth Anoth and Elokin, 6 cities with their villages, Kiriath Baal, and that is Kiriath Yearim and Rabbah, 2 cities with their villages, in the wilderness, Beth Araba, Medin, and Sakah, and Nibshan in the city of Salt, and En Gedi, 6 cities with their villages. As for the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Yehuda, were unable to drive them out, so the Jebusites have dwelt with the children of Yehuda at Jerusalem to this day. Gosh. Holy cow. Listen, sometimes there are even times when I'm like, do I really have to read all this? I mean, gosh, did I really have to read all that? And honestly, the answer is yeah. Yeah. It's just so that way we don't miss anything. It's just so that way nobody can come back later and be like, what, did you read all that? And I can truthfully and honestly, we can truthfully and honestly say, yes, we have read it. We have put our eyes on this paper. We have seen the black ink on the white pages. We know what it says. And that was tough. I mean, who am I kidding? That was tough, man. Some of these words. Oh gosh. Anyway, what I wanted to come and show you guys. This is in 14, Joshua 14. Caleb's coming to Joshua and being like, "Hey, we went and scouted out the land 45 years ago. Remember when Moshe told us to go do that? Yeah, well, when we came back, he said I could have this up here, so I'm gonna go take it." And Joshua was like, "Well, don't forget, there's still giant stuff up there." And Josh was like, "Dude, I might be 85, but I am just as good today as I was then. If God is with me, then I shall dispossess them." What are you scared of? What do we have to fear, except for fear itself? If he is for us, who can stand against us? But as we've seen in the past, it took a long time. Took a long time for God to finally say, and today, you are my people. They've been trying to be his people for 40 plus years. You know what I'm saying? They wandered through the wilderness for 40 years. And right there at the end, right before they crossed over, he's like, today, you're my people. I claim you now. So it's not just we get to claim him. Now it's all good. We've got to have him claim us as well. So let's pay attention to find out how we do that. As always, if I can get there. May Yahuwah bless you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I myself shall bless them. Shalom, shalom.